Oh, hey everybody. Kevin Strange here. Hack Movies. Kevin Strange Comics. This is a video series that's playing on. I have to go mute that. All right. This is a video series, a diary, if you will, chronicling my creation of the Dead Shit comic book series. We launched a successful Indiegogo campaign for issues 1 and 2 back in March of 2019. And we will be launching the final Indiegogo campaign for Dead Shit the Comic Book issue number 3 later this year. Possibly August, maybe later. For those of you who follow the show and hang out, as I've been penciling and inking the comic, you'll be glad to know that yesterday I finished the inking process. 52 pages inked in 15 days. That's an average of 3.5 pages per day, keeping in mind that my inks are not finished and refined as some inkers would finish and refine their inks, thereby taking them much more time to do so than it takes me. I do a lot of my processes in the color phase, so my colors take me quite a bit longer, probably, than the average colorist. But 15 days for 52 pages, 3.5 pages a day, and I did take one day off in that 15-day span. So technically, 14 days, 2 weeks for 52-page comic lettering or inking, rather, which is a personal best for me. That's the fastest I've ever inked a comic. And I'm happy with the results. There's a lot more dynamic poses, a lot more cinematic angles, a lot more interesting stuff going on the page, I believe, in issue 3 than neither of the previous 2 issues. So to complete more complex pages faster, it's good. That's my focus. My focus is speed and clarity. If you can't tell what's going on the page, I've failed in my attempt. Let's see if we got anybody in the chat here. Got a couple people watching, nobody talking yet. Jump on in here. Keep me company, gang. For the live viewers, I like to interact with the chat. I will call out questions so that those who like to listen to the broadcast and not watch necessarily can still follow along with what we're talking about. Today begins the lettering process of comic book creation. Lettering is the little word balloons with dialogue and any narration boxes that appear on the page. For this particular comic book series, there is no narration. I keep everything in the dialogue because I have the style of Strangeville Comics, the adaptation of the Hack movies. If you're a fan and familiar with my previous work, my films, which are right there behind me on the shelf, 7 films in the Hack movies, Strangeville movie series. They're very dialogue heavy. I've been compared. I've been called the Kevin Smith of low budget horror comedy due to my excessive dialogue, and I've tried to translate that into the comic books. So my lettering is pretty involved, and I use a program called Clip Studio to create my word bubbles and lettering. And I'm going to walk us through that process today. I'm going to letter a page and hopefully chit chat with the chat. If you're watching this later, please like the video, share it on your social medias, share this diary of the creation of indie comic books. We pull the curtain back, if you will. We show you the programs, the materials that I use, my pens and my pencils, my my drawing tablet, the software I use. It's all open to you, gang, so you can create your own comic books if you so choose, or if you just like to see behind the scenes of how this stuff is made, of how it goes from nothing into an issue of comic book, issue number 2, Dead Shit, Talisman of Transmutation. Good shit right here. Zombie Tsunami up in this bitch ass motherfucking piece. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Joshitsuo Montoya, all up in this piece. He says, yo, homie, I'm here. But of course, I'm still driving. Well, we don't want you to be distracted from your driving, so don't jump in to the chat unless you are extremely compelled to do so, because need to focus on that driving piece. Several people watching, jump on in the chat. Let's have a little discussion. I'm going to fire up Clip Studio now. I've already got my script open, so I'm going to grab dialogue from the script, and I'm going to transfer it over to the page. And one of the interesting things about lettering a comic book is just how adaptive comic book pages are once they've already been drawn. Once the pages are in order, the comic has been drawn, and you set out to drop in your dialogue. You can make a lot of changes. You can make tons of changes to the script. You could change almost the entire plot with the images and panels and everything already in place. It's very malleable. It's very interesting how much work you can do on your script once you're done drawing the comic book. So here we're in Clip Studio now, and we're going to pull open page number 1. And we get to make a lot of creative choices here. We get to make a lot of creative decisions about where these dialogue bubbles are going to go, which of the art needs to be sacrificed in order for the art to look balanced with the words, and then we can decide to add dialogue, remove dialogue, or change dialogue completely from these from the page. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you guys probably won't be able to see this, but I'm going to jump into my script, my written script, and then I'm going to grab my first piece of dialogue, copy it, and now I'm headed back into Clip Studio. And one of the things that you want to do when you are doing your lettering is you don't want to try to drop this. See, I could come in here, we grab our lettering tool, and I could come in here and just drop my letters onto the page like this. And go in here. Like this. See, I can't even see what's going on here. I have no idea where this should go in the panel and how I should break this up because the art and the lettering are the same color. The art and the letters are the same color here. They're both black, so this is extremely difficult. So what I do is I go grab my ink layer and I drop the opacity way down. Now, see, I can still see what's happening on my page, but now the lettering stands out, and it's much easier for me to this is supposed to be I'm not sure why that's okay, here we go. Gotta play, gang, you gotta play. It'll get you, it'll grab you and get you if you don't pay attention. So now here's where we start making artistic choices. The line is this. This is some stink ass smoke weed, man. Smells like it crawled right out of all 6 of your dick holes. So now we have to take this and we have to make it make sense in the panel. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut this into 2 word bubbles. I'm going to stop here. With this is 2 sentences, so I'm going to cut the sentences. So now we have, and I'm also going to turn on my my border here, my template, so that I can see just how far outside of the panel I can go. So this is up outside the panel, but it's still within my bleed area. So this is some stink ass smoke weed. How about we go? This is some stink ass and smoke weed man. And we drop that right about here. We might even drop that man down. See, this is all artistic choices that we make here. This is some stink ass smoke weed man. Now I'm going to drop in that second sentence here. Shit smells like it crawled right out of all 6 your dick holes. And I'm going to drop that right about here because the only thing it's covering up is the Pumpkin Monster's hand, which I don't really like the way it's drawn anyway. The bong that Kevin Strange is holding is still in the shot. It covers up a little bit of one of the pepper plants, but there's more pepper plants on the page to read. So those will all read okay. So I think we are good. I think this is going to work like that. I'm going to jump back in the chat. Something going on chat-wise right now. Jump in the chat, gang. Chat me up. So I'm going to start a new layer now. And I've been working at size 80 for my inks, but I want the size of the word bubbles to be thinner than the size of my inks so that the two don't run into each other. The two don't confuse each other. So now, on a separate layer, This layer isn't interfering with any other layer. I don't put it directly on my ink layer because I may want to move it around some more in the future. So now I'm going to make a word bubble. And then I do this over and over again until I like the size of it. And even though I like the shape of this word bubble, I don't like the size of it. So I'm actually now going to go in and make it smaller. And then add the tail to it. And then go in and erase out these portions of the tail, and suddenly we have ourselves a word bubble. I now fill it, and voila! First word bubble of Dead Shit Issue 2 is completed. I'm going to repeat the process over and over and over again. And like I said, I just make these ovals. And a lot of times I'll leave these tails that this created, these parts, to make it because it gives it a more organic look. It makes it look like I drew that word bubble, as opposed to me just using a tool to create an oval. And I think that the organic, I think that the style that I'm going for, the style of crude art that I'm going for, you'll notice that my panels are hand drawn and squiggly, and then I also want my word bubbles to look hand drawn and squiggly. And so it creates this organic, like every single curve, every single line, every single straight line, they're all off a little bit. They're all weird. And there's our second one. There's our second word bubble, and I actually think I can grab that one and make the whole thing a little bit smaller. I think we can reduce the size a little bit. Keep going here. And I'll do this little back and forth. I'll play with the size of my word bubbles like this all the way till I'm done. Even when I'm on to the coloring phase, I'll still be moving these word bubbles around. And I'm not 100% sure on the size of this. We're at a 10.3 as far as the size of the font. I'm thinking it might be a little bit too big. As a reference, I'm going to go grab issue number 2. And I'm going to pull up the first page of issue number 2. And then I'm actually going to see what my size was here. And my size here looks like it was also 10.3. So these are the same size. And I'm comfortable with that size. I've already seen that in print in issue 2, and I like the way that works. So I just wanted to reference that. I'm going to jump back in the chat here. We've got no chat. Jump in, talk me up, so I don't have to sit here and yammer at you. So one of the things that I also like to do is, as I lay these word bubbles in, is come back to those inks and see what that looks like now with the word bubble filled in as just sort of a black and white comic. Now, these comics don't look great black and white because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I don't fully render my inks, so there's no shadow or shading layers happening here at all. I'll do all that in the color process. So if this was going to be a black and white comic, all of that background would be black. There would be shadows from the pepper plants. There would be shadows falling on the clothing, shadows falling into the pepper portal, bubbling goo that they're lounging in, things like that. So this doesn't represent a finished black and white comic by any means, but it does give me some idea of the balance of my word bubbles to my art. So all this is taken into consideration. I've usually already figured out if I like it or not way quicker than I can explain it. It usually only takes me about 2 days to ink an entire comic book. So I usually race through this part here, and I'm only taking my time because I'm explaining to you guys what's going on here. So in my script, I have everything broken down to panels. So that dialogue was in panel 1. Panel 2 just says Kevin Strange hits the bomb. Panel 3, Kevin Strange has more dialogue. So I'm skipping panel 2, and it'll have like sound effects in it, like bubble, 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 as he hits the bomb. But I put all the sound effects and everything in after I color. So I've left a big, nice area for myself here for me to drop in this next bit of dialogue. Oh, hey, gang. Can you believe we're already at issue 3? This comic has flown by. And I could nail this all in one word bubble here, but I think I'm going to cut this part out. And do the same thing I did in panel 1. This also helps when dropping in these word bubbles can lead the eye of the reader to the next. So we start here. The tail of this word bubble is pointing at the mouth that brings you down here, and then slightly overlaps into the second panel. And Kevin Strange's hand is kind of pointing. You can see where the elbow would be here, pointing into the third panel, and then we can use the dialogue bubbles into the third panel to move us into the fourth panel as well if I split this up. See, those are just little things to take into consideration. So instead of going back to the same layer that I put those first 2 word bubbles on, I actually like to split the layers up per panel. That way, if I need to go move these things around, it's easier for me to move a layer with only a couple of word bubbles on them than it is for me to take the entire. Sometimes I'll go in and go to grab something and it moves all of the word bubbles for the entire drop that down like that, for the entire page, and that gets annoying. So I try to remember to make another whole layer. And if I was smart, I'd label them, but I'm not smart and I'm lazy. So I typically don't label them, and then I have to go click, 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 trying to find them. But anyway, now we just repeat this process. I'm happy with that. Oh, there are certain areas of the monitor that I just can't draw a straight line to save my life, and I have to move everything up and around, and then I can usually steady my hand. And that's pretty good if it's too open. I like that one, but it's too big. So we will do that. Joshitsuo. I heard a rumor that the new Tool record is only going to have 7 songs on it. Obviously, they're all going to be over 10 minutes long, but I don't know what to think of that. 7 songs in 13 years. That's I would have liked to have seen. Sure, go ahead. You're a prog rock band, so all your songs have to be huge and dramatic. I get it. They have to be these epic, philosophical masterpieces. I get it. But put out a double album, It's not like people aren't going to buy it. It's not like people are going to say, oh, I don't want to buy that Tool double album. It's too expensive. No, everybody that's going to buy a Tool record is going to buy whatever the fuck they put out. Why not put out a double album and put out save all this and put out 14 songs that are ridiculously long. Right. I am pretty happy with channel 3. So we're going to move on to channel 4. And again, I've been smart enough to leave myself plenty of space here. Here, hit this bomb. Here, hit this bomb. Period. I got to talk to the audience. I'm actually going to leave a small space here. And what I'm going to do is do one of these jobs. And usually the best way to do it is to do a double, what's called a double balloon. And the best way to do it is to do it like that. And then go in and clean it up. Actually trying to make the shape with the pen, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. Here, hit this bomb. I got to talk to the audience. I'm going to shrink this part down. Let's see if we can clean this up properly. I know this is super exciting stuff, gang. This part is fairly tedious, and I don't think that it's very I don't think that it's very, I don't want to say cinematic, but I don't think that this part of the creation process lends itself to showing live on the air in the same way that drawing does. Like drawing is this magical thing, and people love to watch the art come together. But when you're doing dialogue, there's just not much to it. And this goes off this word bubble goes off the page here, and I'm only leaving. I'm actually closing it off in the middle of the panel, because if I leave it open and I go to drop the white back into this bubble, it'll fill the entire page. So I've closed it off. It allows me to go bam. But then whenever I turn the ink layer back up, you won't even see it. See, and it still reads like it's off the page. And off the page means that someone from out of the camera shot is doing the talking. In this case, that would be Kevin Strange, myself. I put myself in these comic books. Put myself in the comic books as the character. Not like that. as the character Hogan, but I also put myself in the comic book as myself, narrating the whole thing like I'm like it's fucking Twilight Zone or something. Josh says, I'm okay with just 7 songs. I actually prefer 7 11-minute songs to 15 3-minute songs. As like I said, for the genre of prog rock, uh, that's common. That's what you're supposed to get. No one should be surprised at the length of these songs from Tool. Uh, Iron Maiden does the same thing. The longer that Iron Maiden has played, they have become more and more prog rock. Prog metal, I guess, would be the more, and maybe for both bands, prog metal is a more appropriate designator. But Iron Maiden's last record was all the song. The shortest song on the record was like 9 minutes, and I prefer that when I'm in the mood for prog rock. I do prefer the really long, silly ones. There's the last song on the newest Iron Maiden record, Book of Souls, is 14 minutes long. It is a 14-minute piano ballad epic written by lead singer Bruce Dickinson. And that song takes up like almost a third of the disc space on the second disc of the record. It's ridiculous, but I love it. It's one of my favorite songs on the record. Back to work. You got me talking about Iron Maiden. That's all I'll talk about for the rest of the day. Everything comes back to Iron Maiden. Best band in the world. Moving on to panel 5. Let me grab the dialogue. All right. Let's pop this. This is a long one. So good shit, right? Anyway, Nixon's got himself all fucked up, don't he? Don't he? And Hogan and Tony ain't bearing much better with Don DeWepe and his zombies. Okay, so that's a fucking mouthful. Let's grab this here. Cut that. Put this here. Put this down here. Like right there. Maybe down here. So I got to turn my template layer back on and make sure I'm not outside of my boundaries. It's looking good. I'll accept it. As you can see, the longer that I work, the more accurate these ovals become. You know, I just fired up the program when I came in this morning, so I hadn't done any drawing. I hadn't warmed up yet, and so those first few ovals that I drew were really bad. And as you can see, I'm kind of nailing them. Once I get to work and really get in the zone, especially if I don't have to talk, and I'm just nailing through these things, I don't even think about it. I just start working these ovals, and I typically can get to the point where I use the first one that I throw down. Okay, clean these up. We got one more panel to go on this page, and then page 1 dialogue is finished. Then we'll take a good hard look at it, make any changes we want. Boom, boom. Scoot that down just a smidge. Balance that out. Okay, looking good. Let me check. Okay, we're inside of our template border. Let's hit the dialogue in. Panel number 6. This is also a longie. Plug up your O-rings, gang, period. Because you ain't gonna believe how this fucker ends. Welcome to Dead Shit, colon, the comic book, issue 3. All right, let's pull Welcome to Dead Shit out. Drop that in there. Drop this in here. I'm actually going to increase the size of the font on that last part because he's shouting it. New layer. Shit. I'll take it. I'll take it, but I'm moving everything. Move it up there. And remove this up here. Drop in the tail, too close to his face. So that. I like it, but I gotta move it. Right. That down just a smidge over, center it up. I like it. Pop a tail on it, clean these up, and we are done with lettering on Dead Shit comic book issue number 3, the final issue in the Dead Shit Talisman of Transmutation saga. 52-page double issue coming to Indiegogo very soon. Great new stretch goals, stretch goal goodies. Lots of merch, little cool merch coming your way in this campaign. You guys are going to have yourselves just all kinds of fun little stuff to complement your Strangeville addiction, your collection of Hack Movies memorabilia and entertainment. Okay. This is some stank-ass smoke weed, man. Shit smells like it crawled right out of all 6 of your dick holes. Oh, hey, gang. Can you believe we're already at issue 3? This comic has flown by. Here, hit this bong. I gotta talk to the audience. Good shit, right? Anyway, Nixon's got himself all fucked up, don't he? Maybe the Donny should be down. This is the kind of stuff that I struggle with. I like it. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Nope, we're. I'm gonna be noodling with this one for a second, gang. This is what happens. I don't know how to explain why I don't like the way this looks, but it's not pleasing to my eye. It doesn't balance the way I want it to, so I'm going to just noodle it until it looks good to me. And it has to do with balance, aesthetic. It has to do with the words themselves. It has to do with the way they correspond to the adjacent word bubble. It has a lot of, there's just a lot that goes into it that's hard to verbalize for me. Um, this to me looks way better than it was before. I don't know why. It looks more well balanced. It looks like it's hanging over um, Strange's head in a pleasing, aesthetically pleasing way, and it looks like it complements the word bubble above it and below it better than it did the way I originally had it. So this one says, "Good shit, right?" Anyway, Nixon's got himself all fucked up, don't he? And Hogan and Tony ain't faring much better with Don DeWepe and his zombies. Plug up your O-rings, gang, because you ain't gonna believe how this fucker ends. And that gang is just hanging out there again. It's just not that doesn't look balanced to me. I think we can put it like this. It just looks a little better. Uh, Plug up your O-rings, gang, because you ain't gonna believe how this fucker ends. Welcome to Dead Shit, the comic book, issue 3. That's it. That's how you letter a comic book page. Now that I've done all that, I will pop the template one more time, make sure that none of my word bubbles are going outside of my bleed area, or that if they are, the lettering itself isn't going out with them. All looks good to me. I'm going to crank the opacity on the page back up. That looks good to me. One page down, 51 pages to go. Josh says, I never listened to Iron Maiden. Maybe I'll do that after this show. Well, you've played them for me before. I recommend Brave New World is my favorite Iron Maiden record, but it was made in 2000, and a lot of people think I'm crazy for that. Bruce Dickinson had left the band and was replaced by a much inferior singer for a few years. People were pretty disgusted with Iron Maiden for a little while because the new singer just did not have the vocal range and style of Bruce Dickinson, and they just couldn't. They made a couple of their own records, and there are some great Iron Maiden songs that the new singer recorded. But as far as playing the old songs, he didn't do a very good job. And then Bruce came back to the band in 2000 or 99 or 2000, and they recorded A Brave New World. And I thought that it was a very inspired record. All of the things that Bruce had wanted to bring in stylistically and creatively to Iron Maiden and had been sort of told, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. The band kind of conceded some of those stylistic choices to Bruce on A Brave New World, and Bruce wanted to bring more. He wanted to bring kind of a folk style into the music, and you start to hear that on Brave New World, and then it becomes really prominent on the record. I believe it was the direct follow-up record to Brave New World is Dance with Death or Dance of the Dead. I think it's Dance with Death is the name of the record, and it is almost. I mean, it's like a super folksy record. It's like folksy prog metal. It's really weird. It's like a decadent. It's very, very decadent and weird, and you would want to wear like frilly white vampire shirts with like capes and cloaks when you listen to Dance with Death. It's a weird record. Brave New World's great. As far as the early 80s Iron Maiden, of course, there's the Power Slave is a fantastic record front to back. No slowing down. That's just a metal, considered one of the best metal records of all time. And Somewhere in Time is a great record. They started to introduce synthesizers into Iron Maiden, which a lot of people hate. There's a lot of people that won't listen to any Iron Maiden record after Somewhere in Time because they hated the synthesizers on that record so much. And that record was 1987 or 89 or something like that. And there are metal fans that haven't listened to any Iron Maiden since because that made them so mad. I like it. I think it's great. It was actually inspired by Blade Runner, and it's got this really cool sci-fi cover on it, and the record's really cool. There's Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, and there's a few others from that era that are also great. But those are good starting points. You just pop those on. They're on YouTube. You can just type in the titles of those records, and they'll play the whole thing front to back for you on YouTube. Anyway, I'm going to cut this episode short. I don't know. Is it short? Are we done? I don't even know how long we've been on, but I'm not gonna sit here and hammer this any further. I don't want to do a ton of pages because I don't think this is very interesting. So I just wanted to show you guys the process once, and then by the time another show, I'll be all the way through this part, and then we can have fun with color flatting, which is also a tedious and not very exciting part of the process. But I'll show you guys a page so that we just sort of document every single part of the process of this comic, and people will be able to come back for years to come and see the process as it happens. So that's about all I have to say, unless the chat wants to keep me going. I'm going to get out of here. Let me switch back to human mode and say goodbye. All right, gang. This has been a peek into the dead shit, the comic book here on the YouTubes. I appreciate you swinging by, checking out the lettering process. Like I said, this is issue number 3 in a 3-issue series called Dead Shit, The Talisman of Transmutation, an adaptation of my 2007 film of the same name, Dead Shit. And it was a Trauma Dance official selection of that year. It also played at numerous other film festivals. It played at Archon in St. Louis. It played at the Fright Night Film Fest in Louisville, Kentucky. It's played in Chicago. It's played in Ohio. It's played all over the place. This was more than a decade ago, so I can't remember all of the cities that we've played these movies in, but very well received movie, considered one of my best films, most popular films. Best, it's certainly not artistically my best, but it's one of my most popular films with my 2 most popular characters in the Strangeville universe, Nixon and Hogan, which is why I've chosen to adapt it into a comic book and launch my sort of indie comic phase of my career, my weird twisty, windy career that has involved fiction writing, novels, films, now comic books. If you enjoyed this look behind the curtain, please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel, as I've been doing this channel for more than 10 years. There are more than 100 videos ranging from films, weird little short advertisements, feature-length road documentaries, documenting the process of going to conventions, setting up, selling to fans. There are audio recordings of my fiction here, and there will be a lot more. I'm going to start uploading full audiobooks to the YouTube soon, and all kinds of other stuff that rants, industry rants that I've gone on are on this channel. Lots of cool stuff. So subscribe, stick around. Things are going to get weirder before they get any less weird. Okay, like, subscribe, share. We'll see you next time. Stay strange.